Existence is weird. I don't mean haha quirky weird. I mean the kind of weird you feel when you stare at your hand a second too long and remember it's made of stardust that learned to hold a coffee mug, or when you wake up and there's this returning I waiting for you like a tab you forgot to close last night. That weird. You want to know why existence is so weird? Because it's the only party where you arrive already in the middle of a conversation, and the music never quite explains itself. You wake up, you blink, and someone's already handed you a name, a birthday, and a family you didn't audition for. That's a lot of plot to catch up on before your first cup of coffee. I've lived long enough to see the seasons switch their wardrobe many times. I've changed tires on the shoulder while trucks shook my bones. I've held a hand in a hospital corridor and felt the whole world pivot around a beep. I've laughed so hard in the back of a taxi that I cried, and cried so hard at a funeral that someone laughed. I've done the inventory, and still, existence sits there like a cat at the edge of the couch looking at me like, what? What did you expect? Once, at a bar that smelled like lemon cleaner and old apologies, a bartender said to me, "Life's a trick coin, always lands on its edge when you need a heads." I told him, no, the coin's fair. It's just that our desire rates are variable. We call it a sign when coincidence agrees with us. We call it noise when it doesn't. That's weird. Our meaning is a thermostat we keep fiddling with in the dark. Have you noticed this? You're the only person you'll never meet from the outside. We know everyone else like we know houses from the street. But ourselves, we're forever looking from the attic window. Mirrors and photographs are rental faces. The person you are to me isn't the person you are to yourself, and neither one is the one your mother holds in her head. That's not a problem to solve. That's the architecture. We are multiplexed beings, broadcasting on overlapping frequencies. It's a wonder we managed to share a kitchen. Memory is another one. Memory is the taxidermy of experience. It preserves the shape while rearranging the posture. We think we're archivists. Turns out we're curators, and biased ones at that. I remember the summer I fell in love as if the sun had a crush on me back. Truth is, there were arguments and unpaid parking tickets and a jar of jam with a spoon left in it. But the way memory edits, life looks like it was plotted by a playwright with an audience to impress. We invent the through line to justify the ending. And then a smell catches you. Sunscreen in an elevator, basil on your fingers, and you fall through a trapdoor into a Tuesday from 10 years ago. Smells a time machine. You wear in your nose. We call that normal. Sure, normal. Death sits in the corner the whole time. Not to be macabre, just honest. It's not a monster, it's deadline in its purest form. Everything precious is framed by its threat of ending. The weirdness is that meaning hatches under the heat lamp of impermanence. Without ending, the middle would get lazy. I held my father's hand when you forgot my name, but remembered the melody of his favorite song. That's existence's weird elegance. The mind is a library where the indexes fall out, but the music section keeps humming. Have you ever started laughing because you thought of the right sentence too late? That's how life feels. We're time travelers who only go forward and always think of the perfect reply in the shower. Time is the universe's way of keeping everything from happening at once, and also the reason we're constantly apologizing to our former selves. Aging isn't a decline so much as a camera pull. When you zoom out, you can finally see the shape of the room you've been in all along. The weirdness is not wrinkles. It's that inside your head is a 24-year-old who still can't fold a fitted sheet. Money? That's serialized belief. A bill is a group hallucination we agree to honor because our ancestors once traded shells and stories. If aliens arrived and asked us what we worship, we'd have to say numbers and then watch them as they nod sympathetically because they have their own spreadsheets. And yet, the simplest wealth I've ever felt was the morning my neighbor left me a bag of tomatoes from her garden. Seeds like stars inside flesh. You bite one, and it tastes like the sun learned hospitality. Love is a statistical mistake we treat as destiny. And it works. Two people choose each other every day against the friction of habit. That's physics in a tuxedo. My friend Sam, who writes code like jazz, once told me he fell in love because her silence sounded like a room I'd already lived in. I still don't know exactly what that means, but I get it. The weirdness of love is that it expands the pronoun while keeping the person. I become we without losing I. Joint custody of a life. Let's talk about the little gods, the ones we built. The internet is a haunted house where the ghosts are our past selves endlessly echoing. We go door to door looking for connection and keep bumping into our reflection edited by algorithms. If you've ever scrolled until your fingers forgot how to stop, you felt what it is to be a pilgrim without a temple. And yet, here we are, together, in a room made of attention, proving that even in the cave of screens, a human voice can drag a chair into the light. Once in a laundromat at 2 a.m., I met a man who said he was a philosopher because he fixed vending machines. He said, every machine, he said, unscrewing a panel, is a metaphor, and this one is about fairness. You pay, sometimes you get the Snickers, and sometimes you shake the box and you get a migraine. He pointed out the racks. Here's the secret. The coils don't care, but the design anticipates your faith. I thought about that for a year. Existence doesn't bend to our moral urgency, but the patterns we live inside, family, city, country, are built out of promises that only work when we trust them. Weirdness is often just the seam between the indifferent and the agreed upon. And here's a hook I wish they'd give to teenagers. You don't find yourself like you're a lost sock. You assemble yourself out of what you pay attention to. Attention is alchemy. Look at bitterness too long, and it will gold-plate itself and call that wisdom. Look at kindness, and your hands start to move on their own. The weirdest magic I've ever seen is a human being deciding to be generous on a day they could have been cruel. No religion required, just the daily, fragile choice to be bigger than your reflex. We are stardust arguing about parking spaces. Stardust that gets stage fright, falls in love with the voice, and forgets its keys. The astonishing part isn't that we're made of old fires, it's that the ash learned to bake bread. The universe is busy being the universe. We are the ones telling stories about it. That's our spell. We narrate ourselves into coherence. So, why is existence so weird? Because it has to serve too many masters at once. Physics demands consistency. We demand meaning. Biology demands replication. Our hearts demand a song. The mismatch hums, and we mistake that hum for malfunction. It's not. It's the sound of the machine running. If you take nothing else, take this. The strangest thing I've learned is that gratitude is not a reaction. It's a practice that rewires your eyes. The first few times you try it, you feel like you're pretending. Keep pretending. Pretend until the pretending turns real. That's most of adulthood anyway. Honest pretending, practice long enough to become a second nature. And when the night gets loud, ask better questions. Not why me? Try what now? Not what's the point? Try what can I point at? Find a hand, give it tomato. Fix a vending machine if you can. Tomorrow, the coffee will taste like coffee and not like revelation. The bus will be late. Someone you love will send a text that says, made it. The rain will stop and it will smell like a new page. You won't understand it. You never have. That's all right. Understanding was never the ticket. Attention was. Love was. Showing up was.